Let's talk about the shoulder. It's what lets you throw a ball, reach for something on the top shelf, or give someone a big hug. It gives us this incredible, almost mind-boggling freedom of movement. But here's the crazy part. This same masterpiece of design is also one of the most fragile, easily injured parts of our body. So what gives? How can it be this amazing and this vulnerable at the exact same time? Let's dive in.
You know, one of the best ways I've ever heard the shoulder described is as our body's wings. Just think about that for a second. They're not clunky hinges, they're wings, designed for these big sweeping motions, and they're attached to the central pillar of our spine. That's such a cool image, right? It totally changes how you picture your own upper body.
And that brings us right back to the big question of this whole explainer. If there are wings built for all this freedom, why are they so easy to, well, break? Why do so many of us deal with shoulder pain and injuries? Let's figure it out.
To really get why the shoulder is so vulnerable, we've got to first appreciate its unique design. Because the shoulder isn't just one single joint. It's this whole complex system that acts less like a piece of machinery and more like it's just floating in place.
So you've got three main players in this system. First is the clavicle, your collarbone. It acts like a little strut, pushing your arm out and away from your body to give it space. Then you've got the scapula, that big triangular shoulder blade that actually slides and glides along your rib cage. And finally, the humerus, your upper arm bone, which just kind of plugs right into that mobile setup.
Okay, but here's the part that's going to blow your mind. Get this. That entire system, your whole arm, your whole wing, only connects to the rest of your skeleton at one single tiny spot, right where your collarbone meets your breastbone. That's it. The rest of it is just held in place by muscle. And that's the secret. That's where all the freedom comes from. And yeah, that's where the trouble starts too.
To really get this trade-off between freedom and stability, there's this perfect analogy that everyone in anatomy loves to use. It's all about a golf ball sitting on a very, very small tee.
And this just illustrates it perfectly. Think about your hip joint. It's built like a fortress, a deep socket that grabs onto the ball of your leg bone. It is rock solid. But your shoulder? Whoa, it's the total opposite. The ball at the top of your arm bone is huge compared to the super shallow T on your shoulder blade. Now, this design gives you that amazing range of motion, but you can just picture how easily that golf ball could wobble and fall right off the tee.
So, how in the world does your body keep that golf ball on the tee while you're moving around? Well, it acts like a tightrope walker. It doesn't use brute force or rigidity. It uses constant, tiny, intelligent adjustments.
And this brings us to a really key idea: dynamic stability. Now, this isn't about locking your shoulder down and making it stiff. No way. It's all about the deep muscles, like your famous rotator cuff, acting like a team of tiny acrobats. They're constantly making these little micro-adjustments to keep the arm bone perfectly centered on that tiny T, no matter which way you move. But wait, it gets even cooler. For all of this to work, the different parts of the shoulder can't just do their own thing. They have to talk to each other. They have to move together, in perfect sync, almost like they're speaking a secret language of movement. And that language has a name, the scapulohumeral rhythm. It's basically a coordinated dance between your arm and your shoulder blade. So when you lift your arm all the way up over your head, it's not just your arm bone moving. For that full 180-degree motion, your arm actually only moves about 120 of those degrees. The other 60 degrees, that comes from your shoulder blade rotating up and out along with it. And what you get is this amazing, consistent ratio. For every 2 degrees your arm moves, your shoulder blade moves 1 degree. 2 to 1, always. And this 2 to 1 rhythm is everything. If that rhythm gets out of whack, the tee doesn't move with the golf ball. And that's when you get pinching, impingement, and pain.
So what are the words in this shoulder language? Well, there are basically 6 fundamental movements of the scapula. It can go up and down, that's elevation and depression. It can move apart and squeeze together, protraction and retraction. And it can rotate upwards and downwards. Every single complex thing you do, from a push-up to throwing a frisbee, is just a sentence made up of these 6 basic movements.
Okay, so now that we know the language, let's debug a really common glitch. You've probably seen this before, maybe even on yourself: the winging scapula. That's when the shoulder blade kind of pokes out from the back, especially when you're doing something like a plank. So who's the bad guy here? Usually, it's a weak muscle you might not have heard of called the serratus anterior. The best way to think about this muscle is like it's glue. It's got these little finger-like parts that are supposed to stick your shoulder blade flat against your ribs. When that glue is weak, the blade just peels right off and wings out.
All right, now this is super important, because here's where so many people go wrong. The most common thing you'll hear a trainer or an instructor say for any shoulder issue is this: pull your shoulders down. But for this problem, that is probably the worst advice you could possibly get.
And here's why that's so bad. When you just yank your shoulders down, you're usually just tensing up all the wrong muscles, like your upper traps, and you're jamming the whole joint, messing up that perfect 2-to-1 rhythm we just talked about. It completely misses the real problem, which is that weak glue muscle.
So what's the right way to fix it? You need better cues. Forget down. Instead, think forward and wide. Cues like squeeze under your armpits or imagine you're pushing the floor away from you are fantastic. When you think like that, you automatically turn on the right muscle, that serratus, and it pulls that shoulder blade flat against your back, creating the stable base you need.
Okay, so let's put this all together. We've got the floating design, the dynamic stability, the secret language of movement. What are we actually trying to achieve here? The goal isn't to get a stiff, locked-down shoulder. No, it's to become something way more elegant and sophisticated.
And this is the perfect way to picture it. The goal is to turn your shoulder into a human gimbal. You know, like the stabilizer they use for a movie camera? A gimbal lets the camera move in any direction, super freely, but the whole system stays perfectly smooth and stable. That's a healthy shoulder. It's a stable base that allows for total, controlled freedom. So, I'll leave you with this. The next time you reach for something, anything at all, just pause for a second. Are you just flinging your arm out there on its own? Or are you going to consciously command your entire shoulder system, your body's wings, to move with real stability and control? It's a total game changer.